Imagine this. You walk through the dim halls of an ancient European library. Dust hangs in the air, the scent of old leather and ink surrounds you. Your fingers trace the spine of a fragile manuscript, De Revolutionibus Orbium Coelestium, the words of Copernicus that once shook the world. In another room, you find yourself face to face with a gaze that transcends time, the enigmatic smile of the Mona Lisa. Look up. The ceiling of the Sistine Chapel unfolds above you, a universe of color and human drama painted by Michelangelo's own hand. You hear echoes of a world reborn, a world that, just centuries before, lay shackled in darkness, 1,000 years of fear, of superstition, of unquestioned power. And yet, the Renaissance changed everything. It was not merely an era of great art or scientific discovery. It was a revolution of the mind, a rediscovery of the human spirit. It transformed how Europe saw itself and how it would come to reshape the world. But how did this awakening happen? Why here? Why then? And what lessons does the Renaissance still whisper to us today in our modern age of both brilliance and uncertainty? Come with me. Let us turn the pages of history and uncover how the Renaissance forever changed Europe and all of us. Before the Renaissance, there was darkness, not the darkness of night, but of the mind. When the Roman Empire collapsed in 476 AD, Europe was plunged into chaos, a unified world fragmented into warring kingdoms. Knowledge was lost, libraries were burned, architectural wonders crumbled into ruins. The early Middle Ages became an age of survival, not progress. Warlords ruled by sword and fear. Peasants tilled the soil beneath the shadows of stone fortresses. Trade routes collapsed, communication faltered. The once vast Roman roads became overgrown and silent. And then came a terror from the east, the Black Death. Between 1347 and 1351, it swept through Europe, claiming the lives of 1 in every 3 people. Entire villages vanished, fields lay fallow, the air itself seemed cursed. In this climate of fear, one institution stood unshaken, the Catholic Church. It offered salvation but demanded obedience. It guarded knowledge but forbade questioning. Dissenters, scientists, philosophers, dreamers, faced persecution. The flame of curiosity flickered, barely alive. Yet beneath this heavy veil, tiny embers remained. Monks in remote monasteries copied ancient texts by hand. Scholars whispered forgotten truths. Travelers brought news of distant lands. And so, beneath the weight of darkness, the seeds of a new dawn quietly took root. Then it began. In the heart of Italy, in the sunlit city of Florence, something extraordinary stirred. It was not a war, not a king's decree, but an idea. Europe began to remember the wisdom of ancient Greece and Rome. Remember that knowledge was not dangerous, but powerful. That man was not merely a sinner, but a being of reason and beauty. Wealthy merchant families like the Medici began to fund a cultural rebirth. They supported sculptors and painters like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. They patronized architects like Brunelleschi, who crowned Florence with its magnificent dome. They gathered scholars who unearthed ancient texts. A new philosophy emerged. Humanism. It placed mankind, not the church, at the center of inquiry. The printing press, invented by Johannes Gutenberg around 1440, spread ideas like wildfire. For the first time in centuries, knowledge was no longer locked in monasteries. It flowed through cities, across borders, into eager hands. Artists embraced anatomy, mathematics, and perspective, painting the world as it truly appeared. Scientists questioned old beliefs, philosophers debated the nature of man and society, and everywhere, curiosity bloomed. From the ashes of the Dark Ages, Europe was awakening, and the world would never be the same. As Renaissance ideas spread, so too did a new vision of the universe. For centuries, Europe had believed what the Church taught, that Earth stood immobile at the center of all creation, that the heavens revolved around man. But now, thinkers began to ask, what if that was not true? In the 16th century, a quiet scholar named Nicolaus Copernicus proposed a radical idea, that Earth orbited the sun, not the other way around. This challenged 1,000 years of dogma. And yet, the evidence was clear. Soon, others followed. Galileo Galilei built powerful telescopes, revealing moons circling Jupiter, sunspots on the sun, and mountains on the moon. The heavens were no longer perfect and unchanging, but dynamic and full of mystery. Renaissance artists embraced this new vision. Leonardo da Vinci sketched intricate machines, flying devices, armored vehicles, centuries ahead of their time. He dissected the human body to understand its inner workings, blending art and science. Philosophers debated mankind's place in this vast cosmos. Was humanity insignificant, or gloriously capable of understanding it all? This was the essence of the Renaissance, a willingness to question, to seek, to challenge old truths in pursuit of greater understanding. It was not rebellion for its own sake, but a reverence for truth, wherever it led. And though the church resisted, the tide could not be stopped. Europe was opening its eyes to a universe far grander than it had ever imagined. As the Renaissance transformed minds, it soon transformed maps. The spirit of inquiry that led men to question the stars also led them to seek what lay beyond the known world. In the late 15th century, a Genoese sailor named Christopher Columbus set sail westward, seeking a new route to Asia. Instead, he encountered a continent unknown to Europeans, the Americas. Soon, explorers followed in waves. Vasco da Gama charted a sea route around Africa to reach India. Ferdinand Magellan's fleet, though he would not live to see its end, completed the first circumnavigation of the globe. These were not just voyages of curiosity, they were driven by ambition, by the desire for wealth, for power, for glory. Gold, spices, silks, unimaginable riches flowed into European ports, but so too did ideas, plants, animals, and tragic consequences. The era of exploration ushered in an era of colonialism. Indigenous peoples across the Americas, Africa, and Asia faced conquest, disease, and enslavement. The Renaissance spirit of discovery had a darker side, a hunger to dominate as well as to learn. Yet these voyages forever changed Europe's understanding of the world. The old medieval map, with Jerusalem at the center, gave way to a new, dynamic vision of a connected globe. The Renaissance had taught Europe to look beyond itself. Now, its eyes were fixed on the horizon, and the age of empires had begun. By the early 17th century, the Renaissance had transformed Europe beyond recognition. Its greatest legacy? A belief that knowledge should be pursued for its own sake, that the human mind, not dogma, could unlock the mysteries of the world. Scientific inquiry surged, artists reached new heights, philosophers debated liberty, governance, and human nature. In Florence, in Venice, in Amsterdam, printing presses churned out books by the thousands. Literacy spread beyond the elite. A public hungry for knowledge was born. This was no longer the Europe of medieval superstition. It was a continent alive with ideas. Ideas that would fuel revolutions in science, in politics, in art for centuries to come. At the heart of the Renaissance lay one radical idea: humanism. It placed man, not the heavens, at the center of inquiry. It celebrated the dignity, the potential, the rationality of human beings. From Italy, humanism spread across Europe. In England, writers like Thomas More and Shakespeare explored the human condition in words that still resonate today. In the Low Countries, Erasmus championed education and tolerance. He argued that virtue came not from birth, but from learning. In Germany, humanist thinkers began questioning the very structure of church and state. This new spirit changed how rulers governed, how laws were written, and how ordinary people viewed their place in society. Europe was awakening, not just to new knowledge, but to new ways of being human. If the Renaissance had a birthplace, it was Florence, a city of merchants, bankers, and artists where ideas flowed as freely as gold. At its heart stood the Medici family, patrons of genius. They funded scholars to translate lost Greek manuscripts. They commissioned architects to raise new domes. They empowered painters and sculptors to create works that defied time. In the workshops of Florence, the modern concept of the artist was born. Not merely an artisan, but a visionary, an individual voice. Michelangelo, Leonardo, Botticelli all found inspiration here. Walk its narrow streets and you can still feel it. The pulse of an age when beauty and intellect reigned supreme. Renaissance art was more than beauty, it was a revolution in seeing. Painters rediscovered perspective, creating depth and realism unseen in medieval art. Anatomy was studied in secret to render the human form with new accuracy. Nature, once stylized, was observed with reverence and wonder. Frescoes burst with life and movement. Portraits captured not just faces but souls. Sculptures breathed with unseen vitality. In Florence, Rome, Venice, a visual language was born that would shape Western art for centuries. Through pigment and stone, the Renaissance proclaimed, "Man is worthy of depiction. The world is worthy of wonder." Renaissance architecture did not merely imitate the past, it reimagined it. Inspired by the harmony of ancient Roman buildings, Renaissance architects pursued balance, proportion, and grandeur. No figure embodied this spirit more than Filippo Brunelleschi. Atop Florence's cathedral, he raised a dome that defied the limits of engineering, an audacious feat of vision and mathematics. Across Italy, palaces rose with elegant columns and geometric courtyards. Public squares were designed as stages for civic life. Buildings no longer glorified only the divine, they celebrated human achievement. In stone and space, the Renaissance proclaimed, man can shape his world with reason and art. At the core of the Renaissance lay a bold new philosophy, humanism. It taught that man was not a fallen creature trapped in sin, but a rational, creative being with limitless potential. Humanists sought wisdom not from theology alone, but from classical texts, nature, and experience. They revived the works of Plato, Aristotle, Cicero. They championed education, the arts, and civic virtue. A Renaissance education trained not only the mind, but the whole person. It valued curiosity, eloquence, and moral understanding. Through humanism, Europe rediscovered a vital truth, that life on Earth could be rich with meaning, beauty, and purpose. Renaissance curiosity reached beyond art and philosophy, into the mysteries of nature itself. The scientific revolution was born. Nicolaus Copernicus shattered the geocentric model, revealing that Earth revolved around the sun. Galileo Galilei peered deeper into the heavens, discovering moons, sunspots, and new truths. Leonardo da Vinci dissected the human body, designed flying machines, and explored hydrodynamics. Renaissance scientists embraced observation and experimentation, challenging ancient authorities. They laid the foundations for modern physics, astronomy, medicine, and engineering. In their hands, the Renaissance spirit became an unstoppable force, a relentless quest to understand the universe. One invention above all others accelerated the Renaissance: the printing press. In 1440, Johannes Gutenberg created a movable type press that changed history. Before printing, books were copied by hand, rare and precious. Now, ideas could spread at unprecedented speed. Philosophers debated openly. Scientists shared discoveries. Artists exchanged techniques. A vibrant intellectual network blossomed across Europe. Knowledge, once confined to monasteries and elites, now reached merchants, artisans, and ordinary citizens. The printing press made ideas unstoppable and laid the groundwork for the modern information age. The Renaissance transformed not only what Europeans learned, but how they learned. In medieval times, education had focused almost solely on theology. Now, a new curriculum emerged, rooted in humanism. Students studied rhetoric, grammar, history, poetry, and moral philosophy. They read Greek and Roman texts. They analyzed nature through observation, not mere doctrine. Universities flourished. Wealthy cities founded new schools. Patrons endowed libraries. Education became a lifelong pursuit, not just the privilege of the clergy. Through this Renaissance revolution, Europe embraced a powerful ideal that an educated citizenry could shape a better world. The Renaissance spirit of curiosity did not stop at Europe's borders. Fueled by humanism and new knowledge, explorers took to the seas. Christopher Columbus sailed westward, seeking Asia but finding the Americas. Vasco da Gama opened the sea route to India. Ferdinand Magellan's expeditions circumnavigated the globe. These voyages shattered medieval geography. Maps were redrawn, new trade routes transformed economies, but exploration had a dark side. Conquest and colonization followed discovery. Indigenous cultures suffered devastating losses. Yet the age of exploration forever expanded Europe's worldview and marked the dawn of true global history. The Renaissance reshaped not only minds but markets. As exploration brought new goods to Europe, commerce flourished. Banking houses in Florence, Venice, and Antwerp funded vast trading ventures. A new class of wealthy merchants and financiers arose. Their wealth flowed into the arts, architecture, and scholarship, fueling the Renaissance itself. But this economic boom also sowed the seeds of modern capitalism. Profit became a driving force. Trade networks spanned continents. Urban centers thrived. Europe's feudal order began to weaken, giving way to a new, dynamic economy. The Renaissance thus helped birth a world driven not just by kings or priests, but by markets and money. Renaissance curiosity transformed science and technology. Building on ancient texts and new observations, thinkers pursued deeper understanding of nature. Leonardo da Vinci designed flying machines, bridges, and hydraulic systems far ahead of his time. Nicholas Copernicus and Galileo revolutionized astronomy. Andreas Vesalius advanced anatomical knowledge through careful dissection. Engineers developed better clocks, printing presses, and navigational instruments. These innovations not only expanded human knowledge, they laid the groundwork for the Industrial Revolution to come. In workshops and laboratories, the Renaissance spirit lived on, an endless quest to turn vision into reality. The Renaissance not only transformed knowledge, it transformed ideas about governance and society. Thinkers questioned absolute monarchy and the divine right of kings. They explored concepts of liberty, justice, and civic responsibility. Niccolò Machiavelli analyzed power and leadership. John Bowden discussed sovereignty. Humanists advocated for more participatory forms of government. City-states like Florence experimented with republicanism. Though democracy would take centuries to fully emerge, Renaissance debates laid its intellectual foundations. The idea that rulers should serve the public, not merely themselves, gained new strength. Here, too, the Renaissance left an enduring legacy, the dream of free and just societies. The Renaissance forever changed how we see and create art. Techniques like perspective, chiaroscuro, and anatomical accuracy became standard. Artists embraced realism and emotional depth. Masterworks by Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael, and others still inspire today. Their influence spread across Europe and beyond, shaping Baroque, neoclassical, Romantic, and even modern art movements. Museums worldwide display Renaissance treasures. Artists still study Renaissance techniques. In every brushstroke, the Renaissance spirit endures, a belief that beauty, truth, and humanity are worthy of artistic devotion. What does the Renaissance offer us today, in a world of AI, globalization, and rapid change? First, curiosity, the courage to ask questions and seek new truths. Second, humanism, a reminder that technology must serve human dignity, not replace it. Third, art and beauty. In an age of algorithms, the Renaissance teaches us to value creativity and the soul. Fourth, critical thinking, the power to challenge falsehood and pursue knowledge with integrity. The Renaissance was not just a moment in history, it is a living call. To think boldly, to create fearlessly, to seek endlessly. That is its gift to us if we choose to embrace it.